Hey, y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, our final chapter of our handicapping series is here. It's the sprint. So let's get into it.
Okay, so now let's have a look at the sprint, the last race on Saturday's card. Why, I don't know, but it is. It's for 3-year-olds and up, and it's a grade one, of course. It's 6 furlongs. And note, it does come out of a chute. It's an abbreviated chute, but it is a chute nonetheless. So horses to the inside, if they don't hustle, can get shuffled back. So just something to think about there. Number one is Nakatomi. He'll be coming from the back anyway, so I don't expect that'll be too much of an issue for him. He is a late runner, as mentioned. He'll be coming from off the pace. This one is, if this race was at Keeneland, I would be very eager to use Nakatomi, but he seems to perennially disappoint away from Keeneland. It's not to say he doesn't run good races, but he seems to be more prone to underneath than he is to winning. And I thought he looked pretty good in the Phoenix as an example, and he finished second to hoist the gold. So that's kind of what I think of Nakatomi. He's got Luis Saez aboard him, who tends to have him more towards the front end, and I don't know if there's a change in strategy there or not, but I expect Nakatomi will run his race, and at 15 to 1, that's a pretty good price. He can fill out the bottom of the exotics, but I think he's more a candidate for underneath. Dr. Scheibel, now back firmly back after the long layoff after Dubai, I think has regained his form that he had prior to that, as witnessed by the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, where he was able to edge out Speedboat Beach. Ran a really nice race, I thought. You can see he's been ultra consistent in his last 4 starts. His class rating has stayed at the same, and I think that's a good thing coming into the sprint. I do wonder whether or not he can jack it up all the way to be truly competitive in this race, because he's been running against California horses. And again, I hate to keep hammering that point away. I love California racing. And Santa Anita, to me, is what every track ought to be. So I apologize to my West Coast fans, but I just wonder if he can jack it up all the way in order to be competitive in this race. That's really my only concern with Dr. Scheibel. Now, you look back, and you can see prior to the layoff 2 years ago, the British Cup Sprint was at Del Mar. He finished second by a nose. But that was a couple of years ago. And I think maybe the field's a little better now. And you don't see a big progression speed figure wise from his 3-year-old year until now. So he's still pretty much the same horse as he was then as he is now speed wise. He could surprise. I wouldn't have any surprise at all if he finishes in the money. You do get Juan Hernandez aboard, who's a great rider at Santa Anita, as we know, and Mark Glatza having a really nice meet at Santa Anita. But I kind of have a feeling he's more a candidate for underneath in this spot. We know who the horse coming off the pace we like the most, but he is 5 out of 6 at Santa Anita in the money, so that can't be discounted. I just wonder about him winning this race, but I do think he can factor in it, and I think he can be an underneath candidate for sure. American Theorem, I think, is an immediate toss for me. This horse just hasn't done any running in quite some time since last year in the Pat O'Brien. This year has been pretty much a disappointment. He's been at best fifth and hasn't displayed any type of late run or any. There aren't really any signals that he's going to do any better than he has been doing, and that isn't good enough. So I'll toss American Theorem. Hoist to Gold is the well-traveled sort. He has been everywhere, seemingly. Dallas Stewart keeps trying to get a stakes win out of him, and he did finally get a grade 2 in the Phoenix. That was not a stellar field I thought he ran against, but he did put in a very good race. He will have to step it up again against much better company, in my opinion, in order to factor in this race. Because he did win his last race, you're not going to get commensurate odds with his ability, in my opinion. Dallas Stewart's barn is going very well right now. I just like others more. I think Hoist the Gold is more of a grade 3 type to me. And so, particularly since he just came off his peak effort, there is always the possibility of a letdown, and I'll tend to believe that perhaps is the case. Could finish underneath, and if you get 12-1 or around there, maybe he's worth a look for the bottom of the exotics, but I don't see him as a realistic win candidate. 3 Technique, I think, is in really good form, and another one who will be coming off the pace. The thing I like about him is that he does have some extra stamina. He is able to go a mile and be effective, as witnessed by the couple races earlier in the year, back-to-back wins. In the ACAC, I thought he ran a good race. He had a nice close. He was, I don't know that necessarily the track set up terribly well for him that day, but he did have a good, solid race. And coming in second off the layup, I think he'll probably run another good race. I don't think it's good enough to win a grade 1 stakes race. And you can see his lone effort prior to that was the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year, and he didn't fare terribly well. And I think in grade 1 company, he's a cut below. So if you want to throw him underneath at 20-1, I wouldn't blame you, but I don't think he's a realistic win candidate. The Chosen Vron is very intriguing to me. Look at this one's record. 16 out of 17 in the money, 13 wins. That's impressive. 8 times in the money at Santa Anita with 7 wins, 3 for 3 at the distance. This is certainly what you call a horse for the course. However, a lot of his efforts have been against state breds, and obviously that is a concern. But you also can say, in the Bing Crosby, he ran against Open Company and he won. However, most of them were California-based horses as well. So this will be a step up in class to be sure, but I'm not willing to throw this one out. I'd like to see the value a little better than 5-1. But I think of the California horses, I think this is one that is very logical and I think can compete at this level. And I think he's more likely to be under, if anything, but I think I think he should be used. Speedboat Beach, I really like in this race for a couple of reasons. Number one is that he is fresh. He's coming off a long layoff, and he ran a really good race off the bench in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. Now, you can say that he is going to be stepping it up in class in this race, and that's true. And forget about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. The only reason he was in that race is because it was one turn, and it's the only one turn you can run for juveniles. Back on dirt, he's much more viable, as he proved. The first off a long layoff, and he ran what I thought was a bang-up race, and I'm really actually a bit surprised he didn't win it. Coming in second off the layup, I think we can expect a much better effort. You get Big Money Mike aboard, and I think, in my opinion, he probably will get on the lead all by himself. Most of the other horses in here will rate off of him, but that don't necessarily want the lead. He'll get it, and in taking the lead, he will be able to control this race. If in fact he's able to slow it down to semi-reasonable fractions, he should have enough left in the tank to get home. And it's a tall order, I understand completely. But of the horses in this race, I think he is the most logical to win this race instead of his next-door neighbor, who we're going to talk about now. Elite Power, Bill Mott Breeders' Cup Day. Need I say more? This is the returning champion. He really hasn't done anything to disappoint this year. The Forego was his last race, and the only way really I see that he can be beaten is exactly what Gunite did in the Forego, which is you have to slow the pace down to moderate fractions where he cannot take advantage of his big late kick, and hopefully you've got enough horse to hang on in the stretch. Gunite is a really good horse, and he was able to do it. I'm not so sure that this type of scenario will happen at Santa Anita. I'm just not sure that in a Grade 1 sprint with all this speed in this race, I find that hard to believe that that will be able to happen. So but can Elite Power still win this race? Of course. He's got excellent late speed. He's not a deep closer. He'll be about mid-pack. And when he launches his run, he won't have, I don't think the speed will be too far away from him. And so he won't have that much more to do than he normally does. I just wonder if, I think Speedboat Beach is going to have a lot in the tank going down the stretch. It'll depend on what Gunite does. But I think he can win. He can certainly win this race. I don't think there's any way to dispute. A horse who's won 8 out of the last 9 is one that you sort of have to go with, I think. And Bill Mott certainly knows how to get him ready. This one's training fine. I haven't heard anything to the contrary, so I'm going to believe. He reminds me a lot of Midnight Loot. Some of you may remember. He had 2-turn pedigree as well, but they couldn't keep him sound enough to run around 2 turns. So he ended up in sprints, and he just had that extra stamina at the end. And I think the Elite Power is very similar in that regard. I don't know about any soundness issues or whatnot, but obviously they've kept him at sprints because he's most effective there. So Elite Power to me is definitely a win candidate in this race, I think everything points that provided Speedboat Beach becomes human or gets softened up a little bit, then I think you have to like Elite Power to win this again. Gunite is his big rival, and he did turn the tables in the forego, and has just explained how he did it. And if he can somehow find a way to do it again, he's got a really good chance. But the problem is you got Speedboat Beach there, so I don't think it's realistic that he'll be able to get a soft lead and win this race. I just don't see it happening. However, is he still one of the top horses in this race? Of course he is. Forget about that Parks Dirt Mile. I think they were just trying him out for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. If Echo Zulu was still viable, I think she was going to run in the sprint. I don't know that for certain. It's just a guess on my part. So don't even worry about that race. I'm not even concerned about it. If anything, it's a good tightener for this race. So I expect that Gunite will be just off of Speedboat Beach, and then it'll be just a question of if he's good enough. And he is good enough to win this race. I just like Elite Power's chances a little better. So here's what it looks like for the sprint. Speedboat Beach, I think, has tactically a lot of advantages in this race. He's basically the lone true speed. So he should, if he breaks well, he should get right to the lead, and he'll be able to control things from there. I think he's got enough in the tank, particularly at 6 furlongs, to wire this field. And I think he'll get some pressure, but in the form of rating pressure as opposed to horses trying to take the lead, because, Gunite, the only way he can beat Elite Power is to try to slow it down. Well, he's not going to be able to do that if he pressures Speedboat Beach too much. Same with Dr. Shivel and Hoist the Gold. I think they're more rating type of pressure than they are just getting right on and dueling. So from that perspective, I like Speedboat Beach's chances to control this race. And down the stretch, it'll be just a question of he can hold off Elite Power. Gunite and the Chosen Vron, I think, are good horses. Gunite, he's an excellent sprinter, and he could win this. But it just seems like Elite Power kind of has his number, and this isn't the type of scenario that works to Gunite's advantage. And for that reason, I think he's more likely to be under. The Chosen Vron, I think, has proven himself to be just a stone winner. And then the Bing Crosby, he proved he can do it against open company. This is a step up in class. There's no question about it. But I think he has a chance to factor in this race. And with the right break, he could win it. It's going to take a little extra. And I'd like a little better value than what I'm seeing here. But I think he's one that we should consider. Elite Power, of course, last year's champion. I think he's just the way he runs, it's awful hard to beat him. And the Forgo Gunite was able to do it. But as mentioned, tactically, I don't think he's going to get that type of scenario. So that plays right into Elite Power's hands. So if he's good enough, he's going to repeat as sprint champion. But I'm thinking Speedboat Beach has a chance to beat him. And then finally, we're going to throw in Nakatomi. I really don't like the value you get with him. I think probably 3 Technique offers better odds. But Nakatomi from the closers is one that will likely be flying late. I think that he is not necessarily a threat to win. He'd need a pretty good scenario for that to happen, and I don't think he'll get it. But he will be coming late, and he'll have a puncher's chance. But underneath, in my view, is more likely. So I'm going to take a stab and try to beat Elite Power with Speedboat Beach. But if it's not Speedboat Beach, Elite Power repeats as Breeders' Cup Sprint Champion.
So that's the sprint. I think it's a 2-horse race, in my opinion. It's either Speedboat Beach on the front end or Elite Power defending his title coming from behind. I think it's going to be a very contested race. I think Gunite, you can't deny either. So it should be a real fun race to watch, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope our analysis helps you, as with all our postings, with your own handicapping strategy. And, of course, I wish you the best of luck. We will have a special video concerning betting strategy for the different angles perhaps we can explore for the whole Friday and Saturday card. So stay tuned for that. And if you do like content like this, of course, please like and subscribe. And thanks again to all of you who have come on board. Really appreciate the support. That's it from here. Stay tuned for more. And until then, be well.